Welcome, everyone. So thank you for joining me with Justin today to our webinar Fireside Chat on empowering youth through hip hop and storytelling. So Justin Golden, I'm very thrilled to have him to join us today. And you may know him as Monster Nerd, and you just listen to his music on Spotify. If you search Monster Nerd, and you will find his music, which I find is very inspiring. And thank you for everybody be here. So we prepared many questions for Justin to answer. And I know some of you submit the questions before, so stay tuned. And yeah, we'll cover all the questions. We'll try to cover all the questions as we can. So Justin, so let's start with introduction. Can you introduce yourself a little bit to our Answer.AI audience?
Awesome. What up, though? What up, though? My name is Justin Alexander Gordon. I also go by the Most Turned Nerd. I also go by the 6 Mile Negoose. I am from Detroit, Michigan. That's why I say what up, though. I born and raised there. A super proud family member. Very important for me to acknowledge my family because I like to always go back to the root. My father, my mother, my grandparents, they planted a seed in me, a love for education. And that seed did nothing but grow. And so now, despite challenges, despite obstacles, I get the blessing and the privilege every day to promote education, to promote learning, to promote knowledge through theater, through film, through music, and inside the classroom. So it's an honor. I can't see y'all faces, so but I know y'all there. So it's an honor to talk to y'all, and I'm excited to get into it today.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Justin. So I want to start with the question, what does education and student success mean to you?
Well, education for me really means to be able to bring what's in you outside of you, to be able to articulate the knowledge and the wonders of our already existing brain and the maze and the just pure alchemy that is a human being. The purpose of education is to bring all of the greatness and the light that is within you, to bring it out, to give you the tools to be able to bring it out at your will. That's what education is all about for me. Now, as far as student success is not grades. It's not getting the answer right. It's not being smart. Student success is about having tools to solve the problems in your life. If you have a problem, being a student is to be able to study that problem that you have. And studying means to acknowledge that there was someone before you who had that problem, see how they handled the problem, and then applying the knowledge that you acquire by studying the problem that you had in the previous sense and applying it. Secondly, student success is about critical thinking, to be able to stop and critically think. If someone is telling you, hey, you need a mask, it's COVID, or hey, you need to vote, hey, you need to cross the street at this time, at this point, to be able to critically ask why, to be able to critically ask how, to be able to critically ask what's going on, and to be able to make decisions for yourself. That's student success. Student success is not just regurgitation. It's not just, hey, if I tell you 2 + 2 is 4 60 times, then I ask you the next day and you can tell me it's 4. That's not student success for me. Student success, if I tell you 2 + 2 is 4, you have the curiosity to ask me why. That's successful to me. And we had that conversation, that dialogue, and we able to understand from your own perspective why 2 + 2 is 4.
Yeah, that's powerful and well said. And I want to ask, like, what inspired you to be an educator? And you are also an artist, right? And how combine the both? Like, you're wearing a lot of hats, like you're, actor, producer, artist, educators, right? And singer-songwriter, right? What inspired you to blend the art and the education? Yeah.
I would say, being a class clown, like living my life without education. When I was younger, I would always want to be the funniest in the class. I would make fart jokes. I would want to challenge the teacher and I would want to have attention. And I didn't know as a child, really, that was just my immature response to childhood trauma, where I wanted someone to tell me and validate me that I exist. Once I got older and realized that sometimes seeking for that validation can be very detrimental and dangerous. But I didn't learn that until it was almost too late. So I started to get in trouble with the police. My grades declined. I was kicked out of schools. My opportunities for success started to dwindle. The more my anxiety rose about wanting to validate my existence as a human being. That's when I knew it was a problem, because the same people that I wanted to seek that validation from, when I was at my lowest, they weren't there. The same people that laughed at my jokes in class, the same people that wanted to see me do something funny in the hallway, the same people that I was skipping school with, those weren't the youngsters, those weren't my peers that supported me when it was time for me to turn my life around. So I knew it was important for me to engage in education through something I love to do, which is art. This is how I knew that. In 10th grade, I've been speaking English my whole life. I am an native English speaker. 10th grade, I pretty much failed English class. I wouldn't come to class. I skipped. I would be a class distraction in 10th grade. One day, my teacher asked me to come up and give a poem rendition, to speak some poetry in front of the class. And I happen to just love Tupac Shakur, one international artist and icon, Tupac Shakur. And so I chose to do a poem because I love doing poetry outside of school. So I did my poem, and the teacher came to tears. She cried. She cried. She said, wow, could you do it again? And the second time, I was I realized, like, oh, this is a school thing. And I kind of got nervous and I didn't do it as well. And I continued to skip class. Now, you're probably asking, what were you doing when you were skipping class? When I used to skip school back in 10th and 11th grade in high school, my sophomore, junior years, a group of friends and I would literally go and write raps. We will write raps and compete and battle each other. We will write poetry, spoken word poetry, in someone's basement. Now, yes, we might have been engaging in some extracurricular activities as well as kids get into, but we were writing poetry and then reciting it to each other to see who was the best. I didn't see it at the time, but the question I ask as an adult now is, why did not my school take advantage of my passion for reading, writing, and reciting poetry? Why did I see what I was doing? I thought I was so bad and so cool by skipping school and literally going to be a rapper. Why couldn't I see the connection between being a rapper and what I was doing outside of school with English class? I should have passed English class with an A+, because literally I spent my free time writing, but there was a disconnect there. There was a disconnect between hip hop and hip hop culture and music culture and education. Education means you're a nerd, means you're lame. That's the stereotype that education has been associated with in the United States of America. Hip hop means you're cool, means you're in the now. There's a divide. And I had a serious issue when I found out that divide, because there should be no divide. Classical music and education doesn't have that divide. So why does hip hop and education have that divide? So when I figured that out, that's when I decided to merge the two. That's when I decided I had to bring what I love to the classroom. I think we all become better students when we are engaging what we love. Now, please don't confuse that with doing everything you want to do, because as students, sometimes we have to do things we don't want to do, because that prepares us, that builds our discipline, that builds our structure up, and to do the things that we actually want to do well. So that's how, when I figured out that there was too wide of a disconnect between hip hop and education, I knew I had a responsibility as someone who made it through dark times to combine those two.
Wow, that's beautiful. And I wonder how you bridge the gap. Like you mentioned that you noticed gap since you were like 10th grade, right? And
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
help you to ace the English class. And I wonder, like, as an educator, how you bridge that gap, and can you share some like memorable moments where your creative work, like hip hop, made like significant difference to a student journey or student growth? Yeah.
Yeah. So this story comes to mind. So and this is an example of planting a seed and not worrying about the result. I think especially we live in society now, 2024, we are very result oriented, where we want to see the result and the fruits of our actions immediately. And that can be dangerous. So I had a student that I was working with from Flint, Michigan. Shout out to Flint. And this student was having a hard time in school. This student didn't complete high school. This student had some very hard family and home situations that they had to deal with. And so they asked me, this was post University of Michigan. And they asked me to take this student on a tour around the university. And I did that. And we walked and we just related and spoke just as people do. And as we started to walk, I started to tell him about this book that I produced, that I published. And I started to recite poetry to him. And I started to just tell him about all of the passions and sharing how much my life has been changed for the better once I started to use hip hop and poetry in my education. How I not only how hip hop changed how I look at English or writing or reading, but math, STEM, science, technology, artificial intelligence. When I unlocked my brain, all of those subjects became fascinating for me because I see how all they are interrelated. So back to this student. He didn't give me a response. He wasn't like, oh my God, that's the greatest poetry. Oh, it wasn't a light bulb moment. It wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna go home and write poetry right now. I'm so inspired to finish school. Thanks, Justin. Didn't happen like that. I shared with him what I love to do. We had a conversation as two human beings. And I left it at that. I did what I was supposed to do. I didn't do his work for him, but this is what he did. The very next day, to my surprise, this is why you never know what truly being yourself and truly being passionate about what you're passionate about in the terms of education can do to somebody. The very next day, this guy sends me like 8 paragraphs worth of poetry. And he says like, man, honestly, after talking to you yesterday, I didn't know that there was a place for my voice. I didn't know that my voice had a place, but now I'm inspired to actually share. I've never shared my poetry with anyone. He would write in secret. Think about the people who have to hide their yearning for intelligence. Think about that. Think about how many people are waiting for permission to learn at the best of their ability. So that was a point where just being myself and being willing to share what I do ultimately led someone else to be more of themselves. And that's what it's about. You know, whether I'm working with a middle school student or a medical school student, I'm there to teach what I know. I'm not there to force feed. The force feeding it turns people off. Human nature, if you force someone to do something, usually they're going to not want to do it. But if you share that you're interested in it and you love it and you do it in a way that resonates with their interests, then they're going to pick it up on their own and they're going to ask you questions.
Yeah, I truly agree. Yeah, that's the power in education, especially like the influence from, someone who you look up to and, sharing their personal story and education experiences and get inspired and grow and take something and grow your own way. Yeah, that's very beautiful. So thanks for sharing. And I also want to know, like, what some like common challenges you faced when integrating the creative art into education? Because I know a lot of, formal education has like strict standard or, not flexible. Like, can you share some any like challenges you had with students or in school?
Yeah, it's being willing to disrupt your rhythm. Like education is going to require of you to be willing to disrupt your comfortabilities. True education is just like, oh, I'll only learn a certain way. I'm a visible learner. I'm a hands-on learner. True education is going to challenge that. Going to challenge that notion that you have one specific way of learning. It's going to challenge that notion that you have one set rhythm for operating in life. That's the challenge. That's what it's been for me as far as interrupting my rhythm for the good. Like, for example, I'm a very extroverted person. To be able to sit and understand equations, to be able to use and to be able to look at a math problem or look at a math concept and see, all right, how can I use, for example, when I think about geometry, on the outside, people may or may not like geometry. But then when I look at geometry from a different perspective, as in basketball, and when I look at all of the geometry that's involved in basketball, whether it's shooting a shot, from what angle you're shooting the shot, how tall are you in relation to the rim, and how much trajectory you have to have in it, all of these concepts, then because I didn't just accept geometry as it was given to me in a textbook. I looked around and said, where can I find geometry in my real life? Where can I find geometry? Where can I find artificial intelligence? Where can I find science? Where can I find biology in my real life? Where can I find these things outside of the textbook? And so the challenge for me was when I was young, I couldn't see the connection. I thought that teachers were just giving me work to keep me busy. I thought they were just giving me work, and because that was the way it always has been. And I was a natural rebel. Oh, okay, this is the normal status quo. I'm going to do the opposite of it. So when I connect to students, I'm always constantly relating to whatever is going on in their lives, that generation. That's why reading the newspaper is so important. That's why being hip to current events is so important, because I'm always trying to relate what we're doing in the classroom. Oh, give you a perfect example. Anybody remember January 6, 2021? I'm gonna take that. I know we're a bit frozen, so I'm gonna take that as a yes. Anybody?
Okay, I'm back. Yeah, continue, Justin. I heard your question. Yeah, but
Yeah.
you can.
So January 6, 2021. If you were in the United States of America during that time, it was tumultuous to say the least. During that time, on that same day, during that morning, I was working with a group of fourth graders on none other than the three branches of government. You can't make that up. The timing of it. I had an opportunity to show real live examples of the executive branch of government in some sort of turmoil in front of my fourth graders that day. Us as educators, we can't miss those opportunities. Us as students, we can't miss those opportunities. When things happen in the news, we have to bring them right back to the classroom. That should be the forefront of the classroom. You know, we're talking about germs, we talk about viruses. That should be the forefront of our science classes. If we're talking about semantics, if we're talking about law, we're talking about the wording of things, that should be in the forefront of our English classes. You know, we're talking about currency exchange rates, or if we're talking about cryptocurrency, that should be in the forefront of our math classes. And we bring these questions, so this helps us integrate hip hop with our curriculum. This helps us integrate sports with our curriculum. Our curiosity does that.
Yeah, that is super interesting. And since you mentioned geometry, actually geometry questions is something at Answer.AI we receive a lot of geometry questions from our students. Yeah, I do wish, the school can teach students more in the real life, scenario that solve real life problems. So that's, that's something everyone can relate. And for them, that's more like it's easier problem, more meaningful for them to really understand those like abstract concepts. Yeah, and also if they have questions, right, a lot of time it's about they cannot reach to teachers like
Right.
you always, right, the accessibility and the timing, right, teachers are always overwhelmed, especially the good teachers, right, it's
Right.
high demanded. So how do you see like some of your work can like kind of like combine with AI and art? Any thoughts on that? On that note, yeah.
Yeah, so when it comes to AI, I feel like we need to use technology to help us be more creative. I feel like technology can help us become more creative. Technology can be the ways in which we can save time and be efficient, and also can be proofreaders. It can also be a proofreader or a way to check your work. So and honestly, before we even get to AI, like, think about, all right, for anybody that's interested in AI, artificial intelligence, my question is, how interested are you in genuine intelligence, GI? Because GI, genuine intelligence, that is the root of AI. So your brain, our brain power, our brains as human beings are the ones that's powering AI. So we have everything. Artists, creatives, we have everything to do with AI because we're the minds behind it. So we get to dictate, all right, where do I want to go with my education? How fast do I want to get there? And now that I have this tool, how can I use it to take it to the next level? Because I think we can agree that we've had some challenges here in public schools in the United States of America. And AI might be able to solve it, not just putting everything online, but even using AI in person. How can we do that? How can we love each other more? How can we listen to each other better? How can we learn to do difficult things better with AI? So these are the questions in which I want to ask AI and engage with AI on.
Yeah, I really like that. I think, yeah, that's the conversation, we can continue to talk for a long time. And I do like to see, teachers bring this AI topics to their students and have this open-minded discussion, right? And you mentioned you have taught from kindergarten to medical school, right? Very wide range of type of students. So how do you tailor your approach to different group, especially at Answer.AI, we have a lot of students in high school and college, right? How they can benefit from your approach in education. Yeah.
It's the big thing, the number one thing is homework. Like, for example, I wasn't able, so I asked you some questions. I was like, all right, what is the demographics of the students? Are these students mostly high school students? Are these students mostly Black students? Or are they white students? Are they living in certain parts of the country? Or are they certain social economic status? All of these questions matter. All of these questions matter as far as how can I tailor my work? Like, for example, I know if I'm working with kindergarten students, but at the same time, homework and understanding your demographics matter, but at the same time, honestly, having a strong sense of self, because God willing, we will all be 5 years old and we're all gonna make it to 25 and 30 years old. That's the hope. And so in that time frame, you're going to experience what a kindergartner experiences, and you're going to experience what a medical school age person experiences. So really, really leaning on your own understanding of yourself. The more that you are in tune with yourself and love and respect yourself, you will be able, surprisingly, you will be able to relate to anybody. You'll be able to relate to more people rather than just always trying to give them what you think they need, because what they need is a genuine interaction. But beyond that, beyond just being myself, I always like to do my homework. So I know my medical school students that I work with in the Bronx, for example, they sometimes they already come in with a sense of nervousness, because I work with a lot of first year, second year medical school students, and they don't want to get it wrong. They have a phobia of getting it wrong. They're very nervous because they know they're preparing for a big responsibility. So my job with them is to come in and try to alleviate some of that anxiety so they can do their job with a clear head. Because I know people in their 20s, when you get to be an adult, you get to thinking about life. Sometimes we overthink. Sometimes we want to just get it right instead of just exploring, because we're not children anymore. By the time you get to medical school students, you got responsibilities. You might have bills. You may have a family. You put a little added pressure, and sometimes that can hinder you from doing your job. So sometimes I like to just bring the anxiety of my medical school students down so that they can really be effective. Now, on the flip side, my kindergarten students, sometimes my kindergarten students need a little space to go crazy. They need a little space just to wiggle. They need that. They need the space maybe to cry. They need the space really to be able to laugh. And medical schools need that too. But it's very important. I'll tell you a story about a 5-year-old, a kindergartner I was working with during the pandemic. So we had a great time. We had breakfast. I keep the child in me very much alive. So we're having breakfast, we're playing, we're having a great time, we're laughing. So I tell the student, I say, okay, now this particular student, her objective today was to learn how to write to 50. Kindergarten, first semester. Your job today is to write to 50. And when I asked her to do that, she was very confident. Like, yeah, sure, let's do it. No problem. We just finished playing. She had her juice box. She had her graham crackers. She good. So she goes and she starts writing. She gets to about 12 and she gets frustrated. and wants to put the pencil down, say, I don't want to do this anymore. So at that point, I could, try to encourage her or try to, I could try to match her energy, but instead I said, well, this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. So I stayed stoic, and she started to have a straight temper tantrum. Ah, I don't want to do this. She threw her pencil. She went to run around the room. I didn't move. I stayed stoic. I said, when you're done, we're gonna finish. And so she expected me to capitulate because she was throwing a temper tantrum. She expected me to match her energy, and maybe we could take a break and do something else. I stood there stoic. When she was done having her temper tantrum, she sat back in the chair, she picked the pencil up from the ground, and she proceeded to count and write to 50. When I tell you, when she got to 50, the biggest smile, the most hugest grin, the most accomplished look was on her face. And that's what it's all about. Sometimes you have to know what level of patience to have and what level of wiggle room you have to have with students. Just like in a relationship, just like in a family, these your students are one and the same. So just having that know-how, having that the difference between knowing. And I will say one thing about the medical school, the kindergarten student, the more you know about the better you can help them. I know their parents didn't have a lot of time to work with her on her numbers because both of her parents worked full-time jobs. I think her father might have worked 2 jobs. So the responsibility was on me to be patient because the parents gave me that responsibility to help educate their child while they were at work paying bills for their child. So you have to know their place. And so I take that job very seriously.
Wow, that's very great stories. Yeah, I want to like focus a little bit more on high school and college
Yeah.
students. And I do find like kindergarten students are, super interesting. And
Yeah.
I taught like kindergarten several times, and I do feel, I admire any educators can, teach, get along with kindergartens that well. Like I think your method, if I knew that back then, I think I will stay in that position a little longer. Yeah, but I wanna get back to the high school and college students since Answer.AI serve a lot of our users are in that age group. And you mentioned like for medical school students there's like anxiety and stuff. I think this now is like common issue among like Gen Z student, young students, right?
Yeah.
Mental health and think about what to do after high school, right? Now a lot of people choose not to go to college directly and probably will go to finding jobs or go alternative education. And I think from your education journey, you're also a more like non-traditional
Right.
education, right? What kind of like advices you give like now high school students and college students to choose their college, I mean education and the career path when think about like they are 16 to 22 years old?
Yeah. So it goes back to having a strong sense of self. And I know that's a very big challenge in today's society because everybody has an idea of what you can be and who you are. And we walk around with computers in our pockets at all times. And instantly you can get 17 messages in 17 seconds that can have your brain dopamine levels firing and can really spread you pretty thin as a thinker. So I honestly would say when it comes to choosing your own path, you have to be willing to make the mistakes of being wrong. A lot of people play it safe, and playing it safe, usually do what your parents say or do whatever your guidance counselor says and take out loans and go into debt with the hope that you can get a job and pay them off. And that's nothing wrong with that path. It's nothing wrong with searching for scholarships and going to get the scholarships. There's also nothing wrong with going to trade school. There's nothing wrong with getting a skilled trade right out of high school and mastering that. It's nothing wrong also with going to community college. It's nothing wrong with owning your own business. It's something wrong about doing someone else's path. That's the only thing is wrong. The wrong object is following someone else's idea of what you should be doing. It's enough information out here. We have to use the technology in front of us. We have AI, we have these cell phones, we have access to so much information. that we have to have the discipline to be able to explore and research these topics and see what's best for us. And more importantly, go take a trip down that road and see if it's the right road for you. So many people are afraid to make mistakes, and that's the most dangerous thing to do. I'm most scared of someone that's scared to make mistakes, because you'll be in the same position next year, or you'll have resentment because someone else with a strong will came along and influenced you to do something that you didn't like to do. So there is no way to do it. There is no one way, whether it's entrepreneurship, skilled trade, community college, a 4-year degree, uh, working for a family business. All of these things require a discipline, requires a level of focus, consistency. It still requires you to be a student. No matter what, you can't avoid being a student. I don't care if you're a basketball player, you're a professional athlete. That is an intense amount of studying. So no matter what you do, as long as you're studying, you're gonna become successful. If you put your time and energy towards learning something, and all of these previous topics that I mentioned, those are things that people need. If you can solve a problem, being a plumber, you're solving a problem. If you're writing a book, you're solving a problem. So if you can solve problems, the base of your success is going to be determined on what type of problem can you solve. And there are, and if you see, and don't worry about if the market is too saturated. If you see there's a unique way for you to solve a problem and you want to help solve that problem, that's where you should go. If you get around your friends and you all talk about or complain about this part of life or that part of life, that may be the path you need to go down in life, because you may be the person to fix that problem. So that's my suggestion.
Yeah, that's great suggestions. I do feel like, yeah, young people should follow their heart and, find their passion, and this is actually, I think, yeah, while you're in high school and in college, it is the time for you to find your, passion, try different things and find what you want to do. And a lot of time is about information, right? So, because like Justin, you mentioned, now we can get information so easily, and sometimes it's too much information, right?
Yeah.
Right, the internet and the social media, all those, and teachers, parents, experiences, the society, what society tell you, right? So sometimes to find like trustworthy sources, and it's very important. And actually at Answer.AI, we are building reliable AI sources, helping students to find like resources, help they need. It's like they're counselors and advisors from school, right? So we do agree with Justin, what you just said, that students should always ask questions, always be critical thinker, and try different stuff. Yeah. I want to go come back to the creative art part, because a lot of our students really interested in that part from you. So students watching this video, what's your suggestions on like how can they start incorporating creative arts into their daily lives to enhance their learning experience?
Man, so shout out to J. Cole. He's a hip hop artist. He said something, so he gave out some advice on how to become a better rapper. Lots of times, especially if you're interested in being a better public speaker, or if you're interested in being a better presenter, sometimes simply singing along or rapping along to your favorite songs, that helps your cadence, that helps the way in which you can speak, that helps in which the way in which you can have a rhythm, and how you speak and how you talk. So that's one easy way, and it's fun. A lot of us already do that. A lot of us sing along or rap along to certain songs. But actually, you're improving your public speaking ability. You're improving your ability to have rhythm variety when you speak, which is important to keep the engagement of an audience, because you're able to not just speak in a monotone. You're able to switch your rhythm, your pitch, your tone, and your volume. PRTV is what I like to call it. So if you want to be a better communicator, hip hop and just enjoying some of your favorite music can help you with that as well. And it's, as far as art, it's all like math. Math is art. Like, it's about seeing it, opening up your eyes to see that everything is interrelated. As far as the science, like the creativity is in the science, it's in the math. So it's just about if it's something you enjoy doing, then you should do that. Like, you should act out the next time you have a class presentation. Why not make a skit of it? Why not create characters that can best explain the concept that the teacher is asking you to create? That's a way to put theater into that, into your curriculum. You know, if you have an essay to write, you can rhyme some of the words. You know, you might create a poem instead of an essay with the same requirements, but you can challenge yourself to use different literary devices. So it's even if you're a painter, if you're a director, if you like to direct films, okay, when you're putting together your slideshows, you want to see which emotions can you evoke with one slideshow after the other. Should you switch them? How does your audience feel after you put one music? Oh, we got a question. But yeah.
I'm Zion. I was invited to this by I think your friend Equiano. I was wondering if is there a way to incorporate artistry or something into STEM, or how would you do that? Because I know you're talking about seeing geometry like in basketball, but like how would you see that stuff for like biology or like other classes like that?
Oh shit. Well, biology, the study of life. I mean, it's for one, it's in everything. So even when we think about certain sounds that come from science, or that musicians have known to take sounds from nature, from different rainforests, and put that into a piece of music. And so then therefore, the people who are familiar with that sound in nature, when they hear it in that piece of music, now they have a sensory experience. Now they're having a sensorial experience of when they hear your music, when they hear this music, it takes their senses to that part of nature. So, and that's unconscious, because consciously they might have had an experience to experience this sound isolated in nature. But because you've taken that sound and put it in a piece of music, now when they're engaging in this piece of music, you've taken them to a different place in the world. So that's one way, because when when you're dealing with STEM and you putting music together, a lot of it is about engaging the senses, you know. So that's one way to do it, besides of course just making your attempt at writing music, writing plays, writing films about your favorite topics in STEM. And because when you do that, you find creative ways to talk about it. Like, even though he's not an artist, someone like Neil deGrasse Tyson, he finds creative ways to talk about it because he enjoys it. He enjoys it first and foremost. And he has a creative team to help him present it in a creative way. So once you start to put it in different words, once you start to make raps and start to make plays and start to make films about these subjects in STEM, you're able to talk about it in a certain way that's going to spark a new idea.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, I have a challenge for you, Justin, already, since you're you're improvising, art, creative art with biology, even, right? So that's tough. But I have another challenge for you. Like a lot of our students are like probably in senior year and they're applying for college or scholarship. So if I ask you, they're writing this essay and for scholarship or college admission, and if I ask you to use hip hop or rap music to, incorporate this like a essay creation process, what will you do? And can you like maybe improvise and show us, as an artist and educator, how you're gonna approach that and deliver that and impress the whoever will, the admission offices?
Absolutely. Okay. Let's now. I think this is called an epitaph, or a prologue. So when you take a quote, when you take a sentence, and you use that sentence as almost like a thesis for your essay. So, for example, if I was tasked to comment or to write an essay based on the Ukrainian war, or the situation in Gaza, I may use a Tupac lyric to help frame that conversation. I may say a term that Tupac said in one of his songs. It's called "Me Against the World," and one of his lyrics said, "They got money for wars, but can't feed the poor." Now, Tupac said that one line, and he continued on. So I might extrapolate that line and put that in right in the front of my paper, and then proceed and use that as a guide to explain why we have certain poverty levels in the United States, but at the same time have certain levels of a financial ability to go, on the other side of the world. And why do we have maybe turmoil here, but we still have the financial ability to support, another country's war? So you being able to use hip hop, being able to use the lyrics that we hear every day to really open up discussions of real world topics. So that's how I would do that, because what Tupac did was he said a lot. Now you can go on CNN or you can go on these different blog sites, these different art activist sites, and they'll say the same thing, but they'll spend 30 minutes to an hour saying it. They'll show you all the statistics. What hip hop does is it can make it concise. What hip hop does, when good hip hop, like just a good art, can take an ordinary line but make it extraordinary. There's nothing extraordinary about any of those words that Tupac said. They got money for wars but can't feed the poor. Those are all very monosyllabic words, except money. But what he did, but he revealed the extraordinary. He revealed a societal way of thinking. He revealed a societal pathology. We have a path of logic that when certain things happen in this world, we need to send funds to. When other things happen in this world, we will not send funds to. That's a pathology. And so I'm able to have a very academic conversation because of hip hop lyric, because I understood and I sat and digested a hip hop lyric. So that's an example of how I would write an essay using hip hop.
Oh, wow, that's super interesting. So I know your song, for example, like Paid Off, Most Turner, right, available on Spotify and also YouTube. And can you tell us like when you like write it and what inspired you and like the lyrics, the meaning behind it, like as an example, like to illustrate.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question, So I remember, so when I got to Harvard, I'm from Detroit, Michigan. I grew up working class poor. I grew up, nobody in my family or nobody in my neighborhood, nobody really in my city I knew pretty much went to Ivy League school. Not even many people went to prestigious four-year institutions. I don't know too many. When I got to these places, I saw less people that looked like me and spoke like me. And so I was inspired. I said, well, it's a disconnect. I'm not any smarter than anybody in my neighborhood. I knew I wasn't like just some super gifted kid. I was privileged to have parents that cared about me, and I enjoy education. So I found it difficult to just be at Harvard and just be by myself. And not be myself because I had others, but like I found it difficult to be at Harvard and I'm on social media and I'm looking at my peers and I felt a disconnection between what I was doing in education and what's going on in my neighborhood. So at that point, all right, how can I bridge that gap? That's when I came up with the Most Turned Nerd. The Most Turned Nerd was what was created for somebody who can still exist and thrive in the streets, or can thrive in a hip hop cipher, or hanging out with friends, or on the weekend, or and doing things that we call, hip or cool. He can still have a high energy and still be accepted in places where education is not as popular. In the hood, the most turned nerd can still go to the hood, but the most turned nerd is going to get up in the morning and study for his test. The most turned nerd can go to a party and dance and have fun and date, but the most turned nerd is going to make sure he's reading at nighttime. The most turned nerd wants to bring his friends to doing something positive. The most turned nerd wants to be around something positive, wants to be around things he doesn't know. So sometimes we get stuck in what we know. The Most Turned Nerd was created for us to see the possibilities of learning more, and the fun of it, and to not make it corny at all, to make it so where just like we can throw a party in the street and education can be celebrated just as sports and hip hop is. That's why the Most Turned Nerd was made.
Oh, wow. It's really great because I didn't know the backstory about Monster Nerd until this moment. And I know you created Monster Nerd during Harvard time. And so that was really, really fun to know. So I also want to ask, like, what artists inspire you, who you listen to, and anyone you want to share with our audience or with our students. Yeah.
Yeah. So I definitely mentioned Tupac Shakur. He definitely inspired me as well. Maya Angelou, for sure. Just going through what she went through and just being able to be so majestic with her words. And this man here, show you someone. I'm gonna cover his name up. I just want to see if anybody knows who this person is. Now, this person here, I want to share why people may not know who this person is. This person is an actor. This person was one of the great. Zion. Who's this?
Oh man, River, right?
Yes, sir.
Paul
Yes, sir.
Robeson.
This is Paul Robeson. This is the man that inspired me. He's an actor. I'm talking. He had the longest run on Broadway. With Othello back in the 30s. I think Hamilton might have just broke his record. Like he had the longest run on Broadway. He was famous singer, as Zion just exhibited with Old Man River. He passed the bar. He went to Columbia Law School, passed the bar. He was an activist, which has really got him in trouble. We'll come back to that. He was a professional football player, actor, lawyer, activist. And there's one more. Actor, lawyer, activist, and an All-American. He played professional football. The reason why this man is not as known is because he chose to put the needs of the people before him. So during the 1930s, I feel like it was in between. This was after World War One. We had something in this country called McCarthyism. We had something called the Red Scare, where a lot of individuals, there was a serious loathing of anything communist, anything regarding communism in the United States of America. Artists, especially Black artists, were sent, were not treated fairly in the United States at sometimes, and they had to receive. They achieved success in Europe. Black artists like Dorothy Dandridge, also, if you don't know who that, Eartha Kitt. These are phenomenal artists of yesteryear that had to go to Europe to achieve success, and Paul Robeson did as well. Paul Robeson wanted to come back to the United States because he knew that just having success in Europe meant that he wasn't as effective as someone who can help the plight of melanated people and just people, period, women in the United States. So when he came back, they threatened him with being a communist, and he wasn't a communist. He professed that, but he would not denounce communism because he understood that that was a way to divide. That was a way to divide, and he understood that there was an agenda behind denouncing communism that was deeper than just people enjoying their rights and liberties. And so he got banned. He got blackballed from the media. He got blackballed from the United States, and kind of they did their best in erasing him from history. And he did that for us. He did that for the love of education. He did that because he wouldn't just settle for him being the only successful person. And that's the main thing here today. I created the Most Turned Nerd because I want everyone to be the most turned nerd. I want us all to be the most turned nerd. Just like we all can see ourselves in Spider-Man and Superman and Batgirl and these people, because these people represent pieces of us, of our higher selves. The Most Turned Nerd is just, I want the very best in education for everybody. And that's what Paul Robeson wanted. So Paul Robeson is a big artist that inspired me.
Wow, yeah, that was incredible. So Justin, I want to also ask, like, looking ahead, what future projects are you working on? And how do you envision, your role as artist and educator grow, as your career, are you going to be what's your title going to be, like artist, educator, or like educating artist? I don't know.
I hope honestly, I hope my title is just human being. Like I'm not, I don't want to. I want to serve. I feel like just like this man here, Paul Robeson, human beings, we can be multifaceted. I think, I don't want to chase a result. I don't want to chase a label. I love the work. I love the work. I love the classroom. I love the set. I love the stage. I love the studio. But what I want to do is continue to make particular films and plays that reflect that love. I'm always going to be in the classroom, but I'm doing a lot of writing right now because I understand that the writing sometimes is the centerpiece. So I'm doing a lot of writing. Right now it's about creating the content. It's about not even the content, because that's a tricky word in 2024. Creating the art. So creating the musical, creating the next TV show that I'm working on right now. Creating the next film that I'm working on right now that I think will help to influence and to help serve the next generation of students. And in the classroom, I'm always in the classroom. Right now in Georgetown University, we are creating theater. We're creating theater scenes and theater plays right now to help mitigate bias and discrimination on Georgetown's campus. So we're creating theater for social change. So I'm very excited about what I'm doing down in Washington, D.C. And I'm very excited about what's happening here in New York City right now, as far as just creating art at a high level, and making art, making films and making theater that the casual audience member can enjoy, but the more serious or the more learned or the more curious audience member can dig further and find more revelations for their own lives.
Wow, that's amazing. So I think we're almost at time. Yeah, do you want to share any like glimpse of your future work or any closing notes to our audience?
Yes, absolutely. And I think this is so appropriate. I'd like to share with you all a poem that I dedicated to Paul Robeson. So this is a poem about Paul Robeson, but this is also a poem about all of us and about doing what's right, even when it's not popular. And sometimes you got to do what's and sometimes you don't always want to do what's popular when it's not right. In life, you're going to have opportunities to do popular things when they're not right. This poem is dedicated to the ones who do the right things when it's not popular. It's called "Because Actors Supposed to Act and Rappers Are Supposed to Rap." What if I told you the NFL wasn't for blacks? What if I told you we got law degrees instead of that? What if I told you, really, you can have it all? Would you say, "Oh, I have the time," and just laugh me off? What if I told you you can be an actor, lawyer, singer, activist, author? Yes, he wrote a book too, and an All-American football team. What if I told you thinking small is for the past and everything you do can be world class? Would you say, that's too many choices? What if I told you, no, don't listen to them voices? What if I told you his name was Paul Robeson? Oh, that's right. Besides Zion class, the school books ain't show you him. Revolutionize your mind. Don't take my word for it. Go read his book for yourself. It's called Here I Stand. Don't depend on me, on Answer.AI or Jung or no one else to give you knowledge. Because in the end, you play with your own hand. So read it. You audiobook the shit if needed and learn how the government blackball him from speaking on issues, using his platform like some tissue, clearing the crap out our path so we can get to the facts. And y'all know they hate that because rappers are just supposed to rap and actors are only supposed to act, right? Well, if you agree, good night. I'm not talking to you guys. Get out my sight. Robeson, he used his privilege. And we have a privilege every time we wake up in the morning and we get a chance to learn. He used his privilege so right. He fought against plight for poor people, black and white. Racism. Colin Kaepernick was not the first brother that they hated. Hollywood told him, your days is numbered. Keep playing with house money. Paul told him, I'm no dummy, sellout or a flunky, Uncle Tom or a junkie. See, he was getting money. He was already successful. He was an A-list star. His name was already up in lights. He could have stopped right there. He had an A-list broad as his wife. He had his family. He had kids already. He was set for life. But instead of keeping silent, instead of being selfish, instead of just looking out for him, he was selfless and chose to use his light. Good night. Paul Robeson.
Wow, thank you so much. This is amazing and very powerful. Yeah, I want to thank you, Justin, one more time for joining us. And this has been wonderful conversation with you. And I will hope, have more opportunity to have you join us and talk with our students on the Answer.AI. And I also want to thank our audience today. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us and we'll direct to Justin later on. And thank you, everyone. And stay in touch, and we'll have more great content or great webinar for you in the coming weeks. Okay, thank you, Justin. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.